Today, I want to talk about smoking weed and the negative consequences that come along with it. To set the stage a bit, I talked about this in my last video of how I almost got arrested, and that was related to weed and all the situations I was put in because of what I would say was an addiction. And yes, I do believe you can get addicted to it, but we'll get into that in a bit. First and foremost, to clarify, I was a massive stoner. I talked about this a bit in my previous video as well. I think I started around the age of 14, 15, smoking constantly. It wasn't until maybe 17, 18, to the point where I was smoking every day. I remember back in high school, me and my buddy had a bet to see who could get stoned the most consecutive days in a row. I ended up winning that bet, and we went on for about a year of everyday smoking. And the only reason he lost that competition is because he had to fly out of the country. So we were both absolutely degenerate people who pushed each other towards that path, which looking back on that now, I feel bad, feel somewhat guilty for the direction in life he's taken, at least at that time. But now he's living his best life. So good on him. I hope he continues to be himself and be his best version. To clarify, yeah, I smoked pretty much every day, in school, out of school. Heck, even throughout a bit of college, I smoked pretty regularly. I even worked at a dab bar for a little bit while I was in between jobs. And let me tell you, that also opened my eyes to what weed can do and the negative consequences it has. I remember vividly from that job the types of people that would come in, and of course, no shade to them. Everyone's going through stuff, but they would just always seem so down in the dumps. Especially, I remember we'd have these open mic nights, and one of the comedians that would come in every week to perform his set would smoke at least probably 20 grams worth of wax. Just to give you an idea, he always seemed pretty down in the dumps, and just like the majority of our customers, seemed like they were going through something. So my heart goes out to all of those people, and I hope they're doing well. First and foremost, I think weed just zaps all motivation and ambition within you. Ever since I was a young kid, I wanted to make videos, right? I had these aspirations to play Counter-Strike at a very high level. I would numb myself with weed in order to feel better about my circumstance. I was not the most outgoing person, which it helped me feel like I got out of my social shyness. But looking back on it, I was in my head more than ever. Weed would make me feel comfortable throughout my day when I was miserable and make me feel like I was accomplishing something, when in reality, I was just sitting in my room, smoking weed and playing video games like an absolute loser. Going back to being addicted to weed, I was not physically addicted. Like when you are addicted to alcohol and you have withdrawals, you get mentally addicted to that baseline or that base level, right? And that's when it comes into play. Oh, I had a crappy day at school or work or whatever. Let me numb myself so I don't change my circumstance. Let's say you hate your job. I'm just going to keep going to that job even though I hate it because I've got weed and it pays for my weed, and I can unwind after work even though the majority of my day is spent at work and the majority of my life will be spent at work. Let me just forget about that for about 4 to 5 hours and do something dumb. In my opinion, weed is the biggest ambition killer because of that. It is a time waster, and it makes you feel good about wasting time, even though you're not doing anything productive. And don't get me wrong, you can be productive on weed. I've heard of people going to the gym, working out, all that good stuff while they're on weed. It doesn't have that effect for everybody, but for me, it definitely killed my ambition, and that's just my experience from it. Let me know if you have any other experiences on weed or from weed. Next, weed is a massive money sink. I don't know about you guys, but weed when I was in high school and college was about $15 a gram, which isn't great. Sometimes you can get it for 10, but that's usually some really dog shit weed. But that stuff adds up over time. Let's say you smoke at minimum a gram a day, which is not realistic. You're going to be smoking a lot more than that if you're a typical pothead, because you start to build a tolerance, and because of that tolerance, you need to smoke more and more. No surprises there, right? That means you're smoking more than a gram a day, $15 a day. Envision that. Let's do some quick maths right here. If you're smoking every day and you're only smoking a gram, and that's definitely not most people are smoking more than a gram, that is $105 in a week. Gone. $420. Did not know this intentionally, but $420 in a month. And then if you multiply that by 12, that's $5,040 a year that you are spending on weed. And that's bare minimum, dude. Most people are smoking, let's say, 5 grams a day. That adds up. It does not pay off. Picking up these addictions does not pay off. I was also a massive nicotine addict in high school and college, and low-key still am. But that's for another video. Another drawback of weed, especially if you're in a sketchy state where it's not legal, you could have some terrifying experiences be going down where you shouldn't be involved at all. I had a buddy in high school who got robbed at gunpoint over weed. Like, that is wild to me. Something that some people have access to at the store. A guy's going through this. So I bet you're wondering why I eventually quit weed, right? What led me to quit weed? I haven't smoked since about 2021, 2022. So I'm going on a couple years now of no weed, which, looking back on it, if you told me this in high school, I would be like, you're lying. There's no way you stopped smoking weed. But I think I just grew out of it. And I also had a spiritual experience. You can call this psychosis, a spiritual experience, whatever you want to call it. But this is what happened to me. Around high school and college, I was smoking so much daily that I was so in my head. And this is going to sound crazy, but this was my experience. When I would smoke, I would just lay in bed and it felt like my soul was being dragged down to hell. And every time I would just lay down, I could just feel like myself falling down, and it just said, to hell, to hell, to hell, to hell. And it was terrifying. It was a terrifying experience. Around college, and I don't even know why I was still smoking at this point after that experience, because it became more and more frequently. I felt like I had the devil on one shoulder and God on the other, unironically, like those old cartoons, and that they were placing a wager on me to see if I could redeem myself or not. That is the wake-up moment I had. And then I gave the addiction to God. I don't want to make this too religious, but I think that is the sole reason why I was able to quit this addiction. And for any of those struggling out there who have something similar going on, feel free to talk about it in the comments, because I would love to help you walk through this moment, because it can be a major turning point in your life. And I'm all for bettering people day by day. Love to see progress. Want to help others. At the end of the day, I think that's what we should all be focusing on, trying to improve one another and trying to be a better version of ourselves than we were the day previously. That's why overall I think weed is a net negative, and why you should ditch the habit before you become more dependent on it to get through your day-to-day life like I was. But yeah, short and sweet. Thanks for listening. Appreciate the support, and peace.